are live broadcasting to you guys from the Lakewood Truck Park. It's the Big Play pregame show getting you guys ready for this very pivotal win or go home Game 5 of the American League Championship Series between our Cleveland Guardians and the New York Yankees. I'm 𝗟𝗩𝗘. He is Jensen Lewis. Big Play Dave joining us as well. Guys, the Guards have no other option than to get one back tonight at Progressive Field after what was an exciting game in game 4, but the Yankees were able to steal it very late, as we know, off of the blown save from Emmanuel Clase, and it was a disappointing loss, to say the least. Today we're going to talk about it a little bit, but then we got to lift the spirits and we got to start turning the page to today.
It is one of the gut-wrenching defeats of the postseason, no question about it, and realizing the momentum that you had off of Game 3 and what 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 Noel and David Fry did to literally catapult you into a position to not only steal a game, but also to bring the series level at 2 apiece, with moving day, what we hoped would have been tonight before heading back to New York. But it is what it is at this point, and I think a couple of headlines jump out, and we'll obviously jump into Class A throughout the show. But first and foremost, okay, if you look around and see some of the national headlines, this series has been over since the completion of Game 2. There was no respect even after Game 3 heading into yesterday. This has basically been a coronation, not a matter of if, a matter of when. And I think you have to appreciate where these guys almost turned the trick yet again in a late game scenario. I don't know how the camera panned so high to see 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 Noel's ball that I thought was gone again, and here we were going to relive the dream. But at that point, when you weren't able to get the pinch hit, you weren't able to get the tying scenario there, I thought it was over. That being said, 9th inning, still had an opportunity. That's all you ask for, even with everything that transpired. So, hey, nothing else you can do about it. Got to come in tonight, got to save your season, and try and force Game 6.
I haven't slept in like 3 days. And I'm going to keep it going tonight, Jensen.
You will tomorrow about 1 o'clock. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, you can get as much sleep as you want.
No kidding, man. All right, so there's some things I want to talk about last night because I was pissed.
Okay.
So the 9th, Lane Thomas, the strike that was clearly a ball.
Ball 4 that was strike 3, yes.
Yes. We need robot umps immediately. It should start tonight. I know they're working on that in the minors right now. They need to implement it immediately. As a pitcher, what do you think of that?
So I've always been old school, but I'm with you. We got to get the call right, and no better example than right there of if you have the challenge system in place. So for people that don't realize, in the minor leagues, they have the automatic ball strike system where if you want to challenge the call as a hitter, you kind of tap your head or make the signal. They'll go back, and it's almost as close to if you've watched any tennis, where when they challenge the call there, it's within about 8 to 10 seconds. So you're not having this massive delay.
It's super efficient.
And that's all you want to do, right? You want to get the call right, and however it works out from there, let the players decide it. Don't let that portion of the human element really ruin it. And that's what happened, because if that is a leadoff walk, then now you bring the tying run to the plate.
And who was it?
And, of course, you know who it was. It was 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 Noel.
Christmas. And he would have hit a home run. It would have happened.
Convinced of it.
So, Jensen, but obviously, if that would have been a leadoff walk, then they're pitching to 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 Noel much differently, correct? Knowing that Lane Thomas is already there on first, and he's a guy that has a little bit of a speed and could be a threat to steal. Haven't seen a ton of that throughout the postseason, but it's at least got to be accounted for, correct?
And Tommy Kahnle, who has thrown now, 44 consecutive changeups. Not 10, not 20, 44. Okay? For a guy that's got a mid-90s fastball, the book is out on a couple of these guys.
Yeah.
And what I would have loved to have seen is if Lane gets on, we remember what Luke Weaver threw to 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 Noel. That was a changeup. And I would love to have seen Tommy Kahnle have to kind of bear down, knowing that the tying run's at the plate, instead of just, hey, here it is, let's see if he can get himself out. Completely changes the dynamic of the inning. Also completely alters, as a pitcher, how you go and attack that hitter, just knowing 24 hours prior that he had a flair for the dramatic and tied the game with one swing.
Yeah, he's swinging the heck out of the ball. Every pitch looks like a home run. Thank you, cameraman.
Yeah.
But, okay, so point number 2 with Lane Thomas that pisses me off. He has been playing so well. He's hitting the ball well, but we were talking about it right before we started. He reminds me of Carlos Santana. Over the last couple of games, his plate discipline is incredible.
Yeah.
The close ones that are balls, he's not swinging, and if he gets those calls, he's getting on base. And so when you, as a batter, if you aren't getting those calls that you know are balls and they're calling them strikes, that has to mess with you heading into this game significantly.
The problem is you expand when you know
you start swinging like Will Brennan.
Well, you start swinging at pitches that you know in your head are balls, but the umpire could ultimately ring you up on it. So you have to protect against that. And again, that changes the attack of the hitter at this point. Now, that all might be a moot point here with the lefty Carlos Rodon on the mound tonight, and I am very intrigued to see if he can match anywhere near what he did in Game 1, which was a masterclass in getting guys to chase outside the strike zone. Guardians have hit left-handed pitching pretty well. Now, they're 2-2 against lefties this postseason, but guys like Lane Thomas, guys like David Fry, who are going to be in there tonight in the starting lineup. Noel's going to be in there too. You'll see a bunch of righties and then our handful of lefties with Quan and Naylor. But I got to tell you, I mean, we said it last night, Nick, where you wanted to get the early lead. You wanted to be able to hand it off to the bullpen. You get, Torres swinging at the first pitch, and then Soto hits the homer. Cannot have that happen tonight because then it's squeaky bum time the rest of the way.
And that's what's so disappointing to me about that Game 4 is, you were down 6-2. I think at that point a lot of us thought this could be it.
Yeah.
This could be the season. But then it was guards ball, and they fight and claw their way back into that game. Jensen, you mentioned that the book might be out on some of the Yankee relievers. I think a lot of Guards fans fear today.
Don't say it.
That the book might be out on number 48, Emmanuel Clase, just because this is so uncharacteristic for him, but it's become characteristic for him throughout this entire postseason. The Kerry Carpenter thing we thought was weird.
Right.
He was able to bounce back from that very nicely.
Yep.
Then the other night, in the game against the Yankees, it was Judge, it was Soto, that really hit him up, and it's like, you could live with that. But last night, against the bottom of that Yankee lineup
they
that we've
played
compared
guards
to the
ball against us.
that
It was
we've compared
horrible.
to the Miami Marlins, that was really tough.
I think you look at a couple of things, and Game 3 notwithstanding, we've talked at length about the slider that I think he wanted to have back that Stanton hit out for the go-ahead home run. Okay, you throw 99 in the corner, and Judge takes you deep for the game-tying 2-run homer, tip your cap, that's what he's paid to do. Last night was action early, and digging a little farther into it, guys. You go to the last 10 games that Emmanuel Clase has pitched, whether it be regular season, postseason against New York. They've scored on him in 6 of the 10 games. So they clearly have a comfortability against him. But I go to one at-bat in general that I'm like, okay, why wasn't it this way the whole time? Remember when Austin Wells got up there and he just got pissed off and went 100, 101, 100. Yep. Here you go. See you later.
Brian Anderson even says on the broadcast, he's like, Clase looks angry now.
and he's going to have to pitch angry from pitch number 1 because it was on MLB Network Radio today, and the question was asked, do you go to him a third time? Hell yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And the reason behind that is, okay, struggled in Game 3. Yes. Struggled yesterday. But he's as big a reason as any that got you here.
Right.
I would not put him in the 8th inning to clean up an inning and then have to have him come back out for the 9th. I would have him just for the 9th. I would have him with the whole intro, just like he's done all year long, get him pumped up, and mentally get him as close to as confident as he can be in the moment. He's not there right now.
Right.
And now the fear has crept in a little bit because as a reliever, when you give up runs and you give up a lead, you want the next opportunity, like literally the next day, put me back in so I can feel good about it, get a clean inning, get a 0 up, and just be back to that routine of, all right, I'm all right. And that's back-to-back nights. So if the leadoff guy gets on, it's going to creep in.
But do you know who's another guy we stuck with, who a lot of people on the internet people, were like, hey, we should ditch this guy, Josh Naylor.
He came up huge.
Comes up huge. You can't abandon ship because the guys looked bad.
Right.
It's a couple of innings. Obviously, you want your closer to not give up a ton of runs,
right,
especially the bottom of the order. But you have to stick with the guy. But, Jensen, one question I have for you is it did appear his good stuff, the cutter, was 2-3 miles per hour slower. Is this the Stephen Vogt I'm going to the bullpen, being aggressive. Is it catching up to us in a 7-game series?
Everybody's tired right now, and they're lying to you if they say they're not. And that goes for the Yankee side, too, because they're in a little bit of a predicament tonight, even without having to use Weaver. Holmes looked gassed, too, and we got to him again last night.
Yep.
So when you think about where some of the chess pieces are going to move, and we'll obviously jump into that with our preview, but tonight, first and foremost, it's Tanner Bibee time. And you want to talk about a guy who has been itching for the opportunity to get another start, let alone at home where Cleveland has been masterful behind him throughout the regular season. This is it. I typed it in the notes. I say it's a legacy start for Tanner Bibee in his young career. This is a checkpoint when he looks back, not only in this offseason, but perhaps down the road. This is what an ace is, man. You're a streak stopper. You're a guy that prolongs a season.
God.
You're someone that has to come up huge in the biggest of situations, and there is no bigger situation than your season on the line tonight. So I would expect a very motivated Tanner Bibee. What I would hope, though, is there is enough control that it's not trying to run through the wall, because there's going to be that factor of it, too, where he wants so bad, he's going to try so hard. You have to find a way to have that balance, and it's much harder to do, and I think he's going to have that in the first inning. You and I talked about it yesterday. Gavin Williams, focus on strike one and out one. If Tanner Bibee can do that, then I think he's got a chance to get deep into this game.
Jensen, what'd you make of Gavin's start? Obviously, the stuff looked really good, and obviously you can't have the long balls that crept in and ultimately pulled him out of this game. It feels like the tail of the tape, what you and I continue to discuss every single pregame show, is that guards just need some length out of their starters. And boy, are they hard-pressed to find it. They are really having a difficult time finding guys that could go 4 or 5 innings into these ball games.
Yeah, but having said that, is this him having a short leash with these guys and being super aggressive? Because you look at a guy like Gavin, he could have stayed in the game. His stuff looked good, and then you finally get a little bit of rest for this relief pen. I mean, you have to give them some rest.
Yeah.
They can't pitch every game from the second inning.
Well, and that's the balance that I think Voter has to go with tonight. In Tanner Bibee, it's just a handful of days ago it was getting pulled in the second after 4 outs and 11 hitters.
He was not happy with.
And I don't blame him.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, and Chris Jimenez and I talked about this today, at that point, that's the ball game. Like you've got to stop that. And there was nothing that Tanner was doing that was giving his manager at least the ability to make an excuse of leaving him.
Right.
And so I think Voter did him a service of saying this could have gotten blown way out of proportion.
It worked out.
And it worked out because Cade was amazing and Pedro Avila was unbelievable. And so that was what Steven, I think, had in his head was, we got to give our guys a chance. This thing can't be over in 2 innings.
Right.
So tonight, he's going to get an opportunity, Tanner Bibee will be. And for me, it's just as simple as you can make it. Execute, down in the zone, elevate with your fastball, throw your breaking ball off of it, have a good changeup against lefties, and let your slider work against the right-handers. And particularly, he's been quite good when he's on with that. He'll have the home fans behind him. He'll have the ability to know, this is it, and let me just pin my ears back and go attack. But it's also that measured approach from a heartbeat standpoint of I'm not trying to do too much. I'm not trying to be someone I'm not. He's plenty good enough. And, I think you look at where the lineups are, too. I can't remember. Is Hedges in there tonight to start? I can't remember. We'll check it out. But
we'll pull it up.
I think the most important thing, if I'm in that bullpen before, is just reminding him how good he is, building him up and saying, you've been our guy.
Yeah.
Since Shane went down after those first 2 starts. And it will be Bo Naylor in there tonight to catch. So if I'm Bo, I'm telling Tanner, you've been here before, man. I mean, don't make this moment any bigger than it already is.
Yep.
You just go execute. Let us take care of you. But you got to be you. If you're not you, then it doesn't matter, because then the Yankees are going to pile on and this thing will be really ugly really quick.
Yeah. If you had to give a grade right now for Stephen Vogt as a rookie manager, where are you at with him for the ALDS, ALCS?
I don't even know if the only other comp would be Carlos Mendoza, because he's a rookie manager for the Mets. And to get them, and even yesterday, the opportunity with their season on the line at home, They forced a Game 6 to go back to L.A. Same can be done tonight.
Yeah.
But I think what Carlos Mendoza has done in similar fashion to Stephen Vogt is he's let those guys go out and just be themselves. You don't need to go rah-rah at this. Everybody knows. Everybody knew driving in today, okay, yesterday stunk, but hey, at least we found a way to get it to within one swing. If that would have been a 6-2 game to finish, oh yeah, you're seeing some people drag in today like, all right, that's it. And I mean, the numbers are what they are. You know, teams that take a 3-1 series lead have won 85%. In the 2-3-2 format, when you win Game 3 on the road, they've won 86%. So why not? This is exactly where we want to be, right?
No, I've been pretty happy with the guy. I like him. I think he's going to do very, very well with the youngest team in baseball. There's just been a couple things that he's done, and it was, I'm sitting around the bar with a bunch of people watching the game yesterday, and when Giancarlo Stanton and there's first base open and you don't walk him, but you had the balls to walk the bases loaded for Judge.
Yeah.
What is the logic there? I don't understand it.
Still a head scratcher for me, too. Yeah. And I don't know if there is an easy answer to try and explain why he wasn't walked. I mean,
is that just the catcher mentality? He's going with his gut. He thinks he can get him out.
It could, and maybe some of the advance reports for that specific matchup were what it were. I mean, you have Cade Smith, who is your best bullet at the moment, and so best on best. Is that what you want to do?
It was great for the national audience.
Well, not only that, but more back to your idea of why it wasn't an intentional walk. You got Rizzo up there, who's kind of a wounded duck with the hand.
But he's a mess.
And so I'm with you. Even if you get the force out, right? Even if you're able to, even if it's a sac fly, anything was better.
That's a win.
Anything was better than a 3-run homer, especially to that guy. All 7.
And where the game was at that point. You can do anything but give up a home run there.
Yep.
Yeah, and they did just that. All right, we're going to look at the positive side from yesterday. Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor. A lot of the national media was looking at this series and saying, hey, so far New York Stars had showed up and Cleveland Stars really hadn't. Even in that thrilling victory, it was a lot of the folk heroes, if you will. It was Jhonkensy Noel. It was David Fry that got the Guards that victory in Game 3. Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor heard that noise, and they stood up to the task and scored some runs for the Guards. Jensen, how important is that they kind of got hot and got things going for this Cleveland offense, and can that translate today?
Yeah, I think it can. And to see, the swings for Jose, but probably more importantly for Josh, right? And we've made the analogy to the NBA. Shooters got to see it go through the hoop sometimes. I think Josh saw it go through, and it was the authority of which he was able to drive a couple of those balls, the double in the gap. Still think he's got to guard against a bunch of changeups. If it's a situation where he can drive in a run, if they give him anything hard to hit, shame on them, because the way it's going, he can't hit it.
Yep.
And it's like Pedro Serrano with the curveball. Bats are afraid. Well, that's where it is right now for Nails and a changeup. He wants nothing to do with it.
He did have that nice little 5-mile-an-hour tap out to third base, and I was like,
start somewhere.
His helmet stayed on. It was great.
It was in the other batter's box, but he hit it.
If I were them, no way am I coming in unless it's elevated. I'm not allowing him to be able to hit a heater, anywhere we can get his arms extended. We've seen him, be able to even hit one at his eyes. So I think he's got to have the utmost discipline. If you've got to go ahead and pass the baton, do it. More traffic, the better. Force Aaron Boone into a situation where he's got to play matchups with his pen. And I'm telling you, that's a subplot tonight. Holmes is gassed. I don't think they want to go 3 days in a row with him, but it may be forced into it. You're going to see Weaver at some point tonight if they have a lead late, but it may have to be 4, 5, maybe even 6 outs. They're going to try and end it tonight, man.
Yeah.
Even knowing you've got Garrett Cole ready for Game 6 after the off day tomorrow, they don't want to go back home and have the pressure of having to do it. That's the thing.
Correct. No one knows that better than the Cleveland Indians.
A win tonight.
Yeah.
A win tonight puts you in a mindset for the Guardians of, okay, we're alive, and now no one is expecting us to do anything. But now the narrative changes to, well, why couldn't the Yankees get it done? They were great. Okay, well, all right, now you got your ace in the hill. You win Game 6. Squeaky bum time, Yankee fans. It's the way. Okay, said this last night. Got to get past tonight. We know that. And all of that predicated on Bibee having a really strong start, good, solid first time through the order. And yes, we're not saying anything that anybody doesn't know. Got to get early offense. Got to create some opportunities, some traffic against Rodon tonight.
We've been begging for it, and hopefully tonight is the night against Carlos Rodon. The Guardians have now seen him a good handful of times. All right, we'll keep things going. Last piece of positivity that we can really take away, and Jensen, you just said it. They were able to get after Clay Holmes again, and that was really encouraging to see that the magic started to happen late in that game against New York's best. So if you're looking for reason to be optimistic, I think that's got to be it right there, is they were able to get after Holmes, and I don't know what that means for him for today. Probably that we're not going to see him.
If you look at, I want to say that it's been 5 of the last 7 that he's been in, or at least 4 of the last 6. But either way, just from a pitch count standpoint and what the Guardian hitters have done in back-to-back games, you're starting to see him, and we've seen this with our bullpen now and their hitters. There's no secrets. It's all about execution. Everyone has had 2, 3, 4 opportunities to understand the velocity, how the ball moves. And so it is paramount now that you have to execute. Case in point, Class A, he might have been a couple of miles an hour down, but everything was out of the big part of the plate. It was elevated.
Right.
You are asking for a horror show. And that's on both sides, too, because you saw Holmes, everything in the dirt. Great discipline by the Guardian hitters to not go chase it.
Yep.
That's what Rodon's going to try and do tonight. Remember the boomerang slider? Everybody was swinging it. You got to find a way to not swing at that thing until you got 2 strikes, and only to protect and prolong it back. And
it felt like to me at the end of the game last night, as bad as we felt when Class A got in, I think that's what you could take away, is the plate discipline finally did start to show up, and that was 1 through 9.
Yeah.
That wasn't just the typical suspects. I mean, we saw Bo Naylor put together a very impressive at-bat. We saw a lot of those guys at the bottom of the order who have been struggling to make some contact, work the pitch count, doing all those little things that we've been begging them to do.
Right.
So hopefully it's not the same thing tonight against Rodon, where it looked so easy for him. Those half innings were like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and he was able to just mow right through Cleveland hitters. That can't be the case again today.
Yep, it was hard to watch, and I think that's something they take away even going through the video, and the scouting report today has to be patience, and then really channeled aggressiveness. Now, I know that probably doesn't equate for people, but that's meaning for this offense. You cannot allow Rodon to have like a 9-pitch first inning or 25 pitches through 3. Cannot happen, just with the state of where the Yankee bullpen is right now.
And as long as the umps cooperate and call a fair game, Jensen, I think we should be okay.
And hopefully we see the real
Yes.
Can the real Emmanuel Clase please stand up at the end of this game? I think everybody in Cleveland would like to see that. Straight ahead, Jensen Lewis called it a legacy start for Tanner Bibee. We'll break that down and more. Don't go anywhere. More of the Big Play pregame show right after this. Welcome on back into the Big Play pregame show. Guys, it's Nick Padone for Universal Windows Direct, a proud partner of your Cleveland Guardians. October's here. That means playoff baseball is here. And, guys, we're going to bring the positivity to the show because October's not over yet and our Guardian season is not over yet either. But before that cold weather creeps in, you guys got to get your windows replaced by Universal Windows Direct because you don't want to be stuck with windows that make your heating system work overtime this winter. You know those cold months are coming. Universal Windows Direct exclusive super spacer technology helps keep your home insulated, saving you money on your energy bills and keeping you warm all winter long. Plus, Universal Windows Direct backs it up with a true lifetime warranty as long as you own the home and 20 years to the next homeowner. Call Universal Windows Direct today, 216-243-6648. And for every 2 windows you buy, you get 2 free. Buy 2, get 2. Buy 4, get 4. Buy 20, get 20 windows. There's no limit. That's how math works. Plus 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years that you don't have to worry about those brand new windows. Folks, it's the best decision that you're going to make. Every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free. Plus 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years for the last windows you'll ever need. Go to uwd.com. Like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows. Guys, we're picking up the vibes because October's not over, and it's not over for our guards quite yet. Jensen, you called it a legacy start for Tanner Bybee today, and I know he's going to be excited because, Dave, you talked about it in the opening segment. He was ticked, to put it as our buddy John Fanta would say in his Browns post-game videos. Tanner Bybee was ticked that he was pulled from that last start.
He has no one to be ticked at but himself for that start.
If you think about it, okay, 11 hitters and only the 2 earned runs, right? But the 4 outs, inning in the third, everyone hoping for much, much more than that tonight. Some numbers to consider here. 3 postseason starts, and opponents hitting .563, 9 for 16 against his 4-seam fastball.
Now, as a baseball guy, is that good?
That's you're going to be in Cooperstown with that, but I think
you're going to be buying a ticket on your way in, just like the rest of us.
I think that's probably one of those things that you look at in similar fashion with Clase was, all right, were we convicted in the pitch? Did we execute the pitch where we wanted to? And those numbers would lend you to think, obviously, we haven't done that with relative ease.
Right.
And it's tonight, for me, especially against the right-handers, where you're thinking of Judge. Stanton's going to hit cleanup tonight, so you'll have Soto, Judge, and Stanton all in a row. And kind of once you get past that, it's been pretty easy. And as far as the path of least resistance, you have to mind not only getting ahead, but I would use the slider. Use the slider a bunch. He's been so good with it as an out pitch. You don't need to give them Yankees are one of the best teams in all of baseball hitting the fastball. But it's the elevation of it where you can really augment that slider. He's got to change eye level tonight, but he's got to be able to establish inside. Don't let those big boys hang out over the plate.
And then when you look at this Guardians bullpen, how about this? If you would have told me this at the beginning of the playoffs, I would have said, things might not be going that well. And it's almost impressive that the Guardians have been able to make it as far that they have. Over 49 innings pitched.
It's insane.
Throughout this postseason. That's compared to a little bit over 29 innings pitched by the starting rotation. I mean, that's just not a winning formula. And I know there were a lot of people, the internet people, that when Vogt didn't intentionally walk Stanton, everyone just jumped down Vogt's neck. I was like, all right, it was maybe not the best decision, and it was a little bit confusing. But this bullpen at this point just has to be gassed. And it's not an excuse, Jensen, like you said. At this point of the year, everybody's gassed. And if they're saying that they're not, they're lying to you. But this bullpen has truly, genuinely been through the ringer this entire October.
They have pitched over half the innings for Cleveland's pitching staff, okay? And you're
that's not a sustainable model.
Of course not. And I know a lot of people outside are saying, well, okay, that's because of the new playoff format. No, it's because a lot of people – and we give homage to Terry Francona for changing the game in 2016 when he brought Andrew Miller in basically the 5th inning and said, here's the save situation, and I'm going to use my best bullet right now.
Yeah.
And all credit to, Josh Tomlin, but a third time around against that Red Sox order was probably not the best way to navigate. And you have a lead on the road. You're trying to get it across the line. You don't want to give them any life. So that was really what started kind of this domino effect of how bullpens get used a lot. Guys, if you remember when the wild card started, it was just the winner take all.
Yep.
You were seeing when the Washington Nationals won it all in 2019, you know who was in the bullpen? It was Steven Strasburg and it was Patrick Corbin. They were using some of their starters behind Max Scherzer. Like this is not something new.
Right.
But they had the assets to be able to do it because they got length from a couple starters and then could bring them back for an inning on their bullpen day to finish games out. You guys remember Madison Bumgarner?
Yeah.
For the Giants, came in relief to close out Game 7 against the Royals. Like, this is not a new thing.
Right.
But as
it would just be nice if we had some starting pitching.
For sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of that goes back to, look at this last series. Look at what happened with the Tigers. They had one starter, and they had to try and piece it together.
Yep.
They almost got there. And where kind of the Dodgers are at this point. Fellas, they have the most expensive, team in baseball. They spent $1 billion.
Yep.
And they are going to have to bullpen on Game 6 tomorrow night to try and get into the World Series. It will be the second time they've had to do it. And it will be the fourth time they've had to do it in this postseason. I'm sorry, injuries happen. You have to kind of adjust on the fly. And to be fair, this was the backbone of Cleveland's team all year, was a deep bullpen. Injuries from the second start on with Bieber, the ineffectiveness with McKenzie, Logan Allen, highest ERA in big league baseball at the time he got sent down. And then trying to piece this thing together, even in August and September, you had to go call Matthew Boyd and be like,
who's been phenomenal.
Can we pick you up and can you give us something? They had to go at the deadline and find at least another veteran arm because you were going to be in real trouble trying to rely on a lot of young kids getting you through October. Trust me, my rookie year, you get pretty wide-eyed, and to have half your pitching staff be that way, I mean, it says so much about the Four Horsemen having 3 of them be their first time through. Invaluable experience. But there's a reason why when you keep running guys out there for multiple innings, we're just human, man. It's not a machine. And I think even the depth of the pen has saved them to this point. But that goes back to our original idea. Tanner Bybee has to get into the 5th inning tonight. Has to. Even with the off day tomorrow, because you cannot hang Pedro Avila out there for another 2 to 3 who's been sensational.
Right.
That's where you find a way to kind of get that momentum back from a pitching standpoint and then be able to get it done.
Yeah, and I mean, we haven't even talked about this, but Hunter Gaddis last night.
Electric Factory.
Oh, my God.
I thought the game was in hand, guys. Yeah. I will. I mean, maybe we could put the blame on me for what happened to Emmanuel Clase, and I'm willing to take it. If it means having Emmanuel Clase, the real version of him, show up at Progressive Field, give me the blame. Because after Hunter Gaddis went out there and had the just Electric Factory display that he put on, I was like, guys, this is we got it. This is what we had talked about, Jensen, the special run that everybody thought would happen after the big Christmas home run and David Fry walked us off. I'm like, Hunter Gaddis just captured that moment, and we're going to go win this game and go on a magical ride.
There again, though, and I think this is why Voter did what he did. You knew you're going to have to play Game 5. You're going to have Gaddis ready to go tonight.
He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah. And it would have been great to be able to get Gaddis back through there, but that's also in the back of both Stephen Vogt's mind with how he's deploying his A-plus resources. It's going to be in Aaron Boone's mind. If Carlos Rodon gets shaken a bit early and he's got to figure out how to stem the tide, there's not a lot of options to go to. It's probably going to be Marcus Stroman, who has yet to pitch in the postseason.
That'll be interesting.
Okay, now, kind of good if you're a sinker ball guy, but that tends to be elevated when you haven't had normal turns through the rotation. And I think even just without normal work in the last couple of weeks, if he's forced into that, not ideal for him. He doesn't know how much length he'll be able to get out of that.
Right.
And now you're also asking, Mark Leiter Jr. up and down last night, the PFP that ultimately ends up getting the game tied, probably can't go back to him tonight with the workload. So, again, all these things kind of come together in a better case scenario. Not the best. The best one is Bybee goes 7 shutout, and the offense takes care of business. I mean, that is the unlikely thing to happen.
God, if you're listening, I've seen what you've done for others.
He's a Cleveland fan now, so come on.
But I think getting into the 5th, if Bybee gets 5. We're probably in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, that would be very good to see. There's no doubt about that. All right, Jensen, on the flip side of this coin, Carlos Rodon, is there any chance that he can replicate that absolutely baller performance that he put together in Game 1? And when I think of that Game 1, we talked about it on the Game 2 pregame show. It never felt like the Yankees dominated, but it almost was that Carlos Rodon was so good at getting Guardians batters to chase pitches that weren't that great we looked really bad in that game, and Rodon wasn't like he was exactly on.
Yeah, and the numbers for him overall have actually been pretty good. 16 strikeouts, no walks, and 9 2/3. He has dominated lefties. They're hitting .077 against them. Righties on the flip side, hitting .346. So no shock that you're seeing, Stephen Vogt run out the majority of righties tonight. The only other one that's not in there would be Hedgie, having Bo Naylor start tonight. I think that's the right move, though, the way Bo has started to show you the last couple of days. He's handling the bat well.
Yep.
The only thing you guard against is going to be the defense. It's got to be there. Cannot have game 2 happen all over again with, the pass balls, the wild pitches, that sort of thing. All that being said, it is incredibly hard to follow that start that Carlos Rodon did and do it again on the road, and just by the nature of what he's done this year. He's been almost a full, I think, run and a half better at Yankee Stadium than he has been on the road, and he has been way more prone to give up home runs on the road. Now, we feel it right now. We just put on, some layers here.
It's getting a little chilly.
It's getting a little chilly. The sun is well into those trees now, Jensen.
I was saying that, the ball that Noel hit, yesterday, if that's in August, balls in the seats. But hey, welcome to cold weather and October baseball.
Yeah, welcome to Cleveland, everybody. All righty, we are bringing in a very special guest on the Big Play pregame show, former New York Mets general manager and current MLB Network radio host, Mr. Steve Phillips. Steve, we appreciate you so much for joining us on the Big Play pregame show. How you doing?
Grab him real quick.
Yeah, we're going to connect Steve Phillips virtually.
Friend of the show, Rafa, probably pulled his cord out there.
Messed it up. As we get Steve going here, I think, again, I'm talking about the Noel ball and just how, in general, with the temperature drop here and where certain things are for the jet stream out to right center, it's just not carrying as much. But I look at Naylor's ball that he hit, vapor trail behind it, real good backspin to it. You think about some of the balls off the wall, too, and even the warning track fly ball. And I think there is still something to be said here for creating some chaos. David Fry said it again. Our best chance, bunts, bombs, and chaos.
Yep.
That's Guard's ball.
Put that on a T-shirt, Cody. That is Guard's ball. Textbook definition. I don't even want to think about this, but it has crept into my head a little bit.
Oh, boy.
Just because the offense was so heroic again last night in that comeback. They were down 6-2. They tie the game, and then Clase has the meltdown late. I hope the offense shows up to the ballpark today the same way that they have all year. And they haven't never given me a reason to believe or to doubt them, so I'm not doing that. But I just hope that the fatigue paired with the, man, we just did this again for a second consecutive night. I don't want that to creep in.
I have way more confidence in the offense now.
I think so,
that
too.
We've seen Naylor and we've seen Hosey actually hit a clutch hit in the playoffs, deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, late in the game, and it was, and we needed to see that. We needed to see that out of the Stars. I think that just the Cleveland fan in me doesn't want the bottom of the bag to fall out on this thing now, and let's not have a game where the Yankees just blank the Guardians, and that's how this season. I don't want the season to end like that. I think is my main thing. This team has been so fun all year long, and go out on your sword, go out on Guard's ball. It's the whole reason why you're here.
Yeah, and honestly, when you have the opportunity to actually make sure that you're in a spot to score runs, you've got to take advantage.
All right, I think we're connected here again with former Mets general manager, current MLB Network radio host, Steve Phillips. Steve, do you have us?
Get him again? We'll try.
We will try to grab Steve
he
here.
He might be going through a tunnel.
Yeah, Steve is in the car. I see him laughing, so he can hear us. It's just that we can't hear him on the mobile connection. So we'll work to bring Steve Phillips into the Big Play pregame show.
I texted him the link, so he should be all right.
There we go.
Yeah,
I texted him the new one, Rye, so hopefully he's jumping on.
We'll work on Steve's connection. Steve, if you could hear us and you want to jump in, feel free to talk, and we'll give you the floor here because I believe you're potted up here on your mic. I'm glad to hear that from both of you guys about the offense because there's no reason for this to end that way, and I don't think the season ends tonight. I really don't. I think we continue on.
Still, as I said yesterday, I thought that it was set up for a lot of runs, and we got there. I didn't realize I would nail it and say, "Hey, buckle up, everybody! It's going to be a race to 8."
When you're texting us "race to 8," I'm like, "No."
Final score.
Please no.
Final score 8-6. I was just hoping it was the wrong team winning, but. That in and of itself, I think, lends us to probably more offense tonight. And I still think the way that we've hit left-handed pitching and having seen Rodon already, I think our offense much better, especially 2 nights in a row where they felt pretty good, have had some good swings. I think the same can be said, though, is the Yankees feel pretty confident about seeing what they did to Bibee in Game 2. So not to say that I hope there is not what happened yesterday in the first inning with an early 2-run home run. If it's for us, great. I don't envision it from both. I think both guys are really going to be hyper-focused on trying to get a clean inning to start.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't shock me if, kind of towards the end of the lineup and then turn it around a second time that we get some scoring. I don't know if it's going to be 8-6, but I think we could definitely see some runs again tonight.
Ryan, should we try again? Is the third time a charm for Steve?
Maybe.
Steve's in the car.
Maybe. That's a hard maybe.
I don't think we have them. That's okay. We've talked a lot about X factors throughout this entire postseason.
Yep.
ALDS, ALCS. Stephen Kwan, I would say, has been arguably the biggest X factor for Cleveland's offense. He's the engine at the top of the lineup, and he's consistently always on base. 9 for 20 versus left-handed pitching in the postseason. We're not building our same-game parlay yet. Sorry, Dave. I know you got to jump, but I think you got
what's awesome
to
about
plug
that?
Stephen Kwan in there.
9 for 20, over 400 against lefties, and you have to look it up and see if he's better versus lefties or righties in the playoffs, which is an insane stat.
I mean, that just tells you from where he was. Remember, he had that slump, kind of the fatigue at the end of the year, and needed some time on the IL before being activated. And to see him just come right back, especially from the first swing in the division series against Detroit, and doing it in the way that he did against Holton, who didn't give up a run all year in 12 innings against Cleveland hitting. That right there catapulted me into a boatload of confidence, like, okay, top of the order is going to have it. We're going to be all right. I think you look at tonight and the matchup and trying to start fast. It won't shock me if David Fry tries to ambush. It really won't, but I think Rodon will be ready for that. And like, all right, if you're going to beat me, I'm zooming 98 at the top, and I'm going to try and get you to chase on the breaking ball. So I would hope that those guys just trying it. There he is.
There he is.
Hey, we got
him. Welcoming in to the Big Play pregame show, former New York Mets general manager, current MLB Network radio host, Steve Phillips joins us on the program. Steve, so glad we're able to get you connected. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How many former Mets general managers does it take to get the former general manager connected? To Zoom. It's amazing how it takes so many.
Hey,
and here's the thing, as Jensen knows, I am so technologically savvy and up to date with everything out there right now. But listen, I will do anything for Jensen Lewis. Happy to jump on with you guys.
Steve, we appreciate it, buddy, and thanks for taking some time on a Saturday. Kind of up to speed on what we've been talking about. Your keys tonight for both starting pitchers, because I think it's a pretty easy one about if they can get length, it helps their respective bullpens. What do you need to see, particularly out of Tanner Bibee tonight, for the Guardians to have a chance to force this to Game 6?
Yeah, I mean, Tanner Bibee has to be more consistent in the zone early. You can't. The Yankees are not going to chase early in the count. They're not going to chase the first pitch out of the zone. You've got to get in the zone for strike one. You've got to get in the zone for strike two. Then you can start to expand. And I think that's where things go wrong a little bit for anybody against the Yankees, against the Dodgers. If you expect them to chase early in the count, they're not going to do it. And so, you can try to get them to blink. They won't. So he's got to work ahead and throw strikes. I mean, look, make them earn it. Make them hit it. Make them put it in play. I don't think they're going to lump 3, 4, 5 singles together. Keep the ball in the ballpark, but you've got to attack them and be aggressive. As soon as you let up and think, I need to try to miss bats, is when you get in trouble.
Did you take anything positive and say that, okay, maybe this is the breakout for either Jose Ramirez or Josh Naylor? From their at-bats yesterday, they accounted for 5 of the 6 runs batted in for Cleveland's offense. If you were talking to them today, what do you take away from them to be able to continue that success tonight?
Yeah, for sure. For Naylor, it has been a struggle for him. And for Hosey, I don't think I've ever seen him pull so many balls foul.
Yeah.
Both from the left side and right side of the, so he's sort of getting around it a little bit out in front. And so, I think that for both of them, you got to think about the big part of the field. Think about gap to gap, driving the baseball. And if they can get them going, it makes such a difference because you're getting some contributions from some of the other guys, but the horses have to deliver. Stanton and Judge have done it. And I think right now it's got to be Naylor and Ramirez that lead the way offensively. You know, when your most predictable players play predictably, it sets a tone for everybody else that, oh, that's who we are, right? That's how we play. Those guys lead us, we follow. And I think it makes such a big difference. And that's what they need, is that connection in the lineup right now, where it's been a lot of start and stop. But they need the big guys in the middle to get it done. Naylor had much better at bats yesterday. Look, doesn't have to be a line drive, just contact, put it in play. And can somebody please get Josh Naylor a chin strap for his helmet? That's all I'm wondering. Can somebody get him a chin strap for his helmet?
We'll have to try to make that happen.
They even mentioned it on the national broadcast. They're like, someone move him from 6 5/8 to 6 1/2.
No, it's 7 3/4 or something, man. Oh, geez. Steve, all right, so from that side for the Guardians to the Yankees side, of course, in the catbird seat, Giancarlo Stanton has been a one-man wrecking crew. He's now going to hit cleanup tonight. In your mind, is it about just get the early lead and then Aaron Boone can kind of let Carlos Rodon go a little bit because the offense has been so successful? Like if Rodon gets in trouble, who do you think Booney kind of relies on to try and bridge it to the back end?
Yeah, so I think that Rodon's the wild card. You know, his emotional control, you know, we made a big deal about it in his first start where he was a mess and he was pumping fists and screaming and yelling, and he lasted 3 innings and he ran out of gas. Much more under control in his last start. However, when he gives up a home run, he gets unsettled. Yeah. And I think it's critical to get him early. Get him unsettled early, that he can look like in his face he's under control, but his heart rate's racing right there. And, from the Yankees' perspective, they've got to try to bury the Guardians. They do not want to give them any life at all. Do not give them an opening. Do not let the door stay cracked open. You've got to slam that door shut and go out there. And I think scoring early, putting pressure on the at-bats for the Guardians is what the Yankees are going to look to try to do. But I think there's a real vulnerability with Carlos Rodon. I do. He does not exude confidence for me. I know last time out he looked better, but as soon as he gives up a home run, things get a little askew with him. And so I think it's critical to put pressure on him to be able to sort of make him move. I'd make him get off the mound and field his position. I would run on him. I would do everything I can to just get under his skin, because if you do that, you've got a chance for him to miss a couple spots where you can do some damage.
Steve Phillips, MLB Network Radio, is our guest. Steve, we've had the debate here in Cleveland really for the better half of today. Are you going to Emmanuel Clase late in this game after what happened these last 2 times out?
Absolutely. You know, what I actually might do is I might actually go Gaddis after Bibee and not Cade Smith. I might flip-flop Gaddis and Cade Smith in the roles that they use, because, Cade had a tough time his last time, but he's been great. But Hunter Gaddis has not really been the same guy. And if he comes in the 8th inning and gives up a run, then it's too late to make up for that run. If he's going to give up a run, I'd rather he give it up in the 5th, 6th inning, so that you've got some time for the offense to come back and make up for that. I have more confidence in Smith to put up a 0 right now than I do Hunter Gaddis. And so I know it's not the way they've done it. I know that managers don't like to do it differently. They want to go with the guys that got them there. But I would go with Gaddis. I would just go with him earlier in the game, because I need some margin for error. I need some time in case it's not perfect. I still trust. Yes, Clase is getting the ball for me, and I would wait on him on the mound, and I would get in his face, and I would challenge him, because after he gave up the home runs to the Tigers, he came in Game 5, and he had some venom. He had some anger to him. Mm-hmm. I didn't love the look on his face this last time out, but I would challenge him to go out there and attack and just be himself. Because if there's anybody in the major leagues right now, if I have the game on the line, no matter what team I am, and I could choose one closer, I'm choosing Emmanuel Clase. I'm still choosing tonight.
I love it. Steve, appreciate you taking the time, man. We'll let you get to it. Enjoy the night, and I'm hoping that you're talking about what we anticipate, a Game 6 on the leadoff spot on Monday. Thanks, big guy.
All right, terrific, guys. And listen, if it keeps going, happy to come on with a little better conditions to talk again.
We'll do that. Absolutely.
We appreciate Steve Phillips for joining us in the car, mobile Steve
Love
Phillips.
it.
And that was a great interview, out of him. And it's interesting to hear both of your guys' perspectives. Obviously, Steve's been around the game very long time. Jensen, you played the game for a while. And I came into today not sure, as a fan, that I would go back to Emmanuel Clase in a big spot, just because I wondered if his confidence was shook. I wondered if, maybe it's something physically, and obviously his own fatigue going into this one. I was like, hey, maybe if it's late, you just keep Cade Smith or you throw Hunter Gaddis one extra inning. But it's refreshing for you and now Steve to kind of bring me back to life and bring me to bay and say, hey, no, you've got to stick with Emmanuel Clase throughout this postseason, despite the struggles.
And I think there's an opportunity, too, and it's kind of maybe a double bonus here, where you get him back out there. You're going to have the off day anyway tomorrow, but you get him the confidence here at home because you don't want him to linger. Let's say they win tonight, he doesn't get in. You don't need this to continue and marinate through tonight, through the off day tomorrow, and then his first time back out is in the Dragons' lair at Yankee Stadium, where you guys remember back in Boston in that rivalry when Pedro was pitching. He goes, the Yankees are my daddies. And all they did was chant that. And all the Yankees said, who's your daddy?
Yep.
What do you think they're going to do?
Jensen, hold up. He said that?
Pedro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, yeah. Again, one of the unexplainable things about Pedro Martinez, but it really was the case in that post. I mean, they owned him. They owned him. But you don't want to feed the fire, and you also don't want that first time to be on enemy soil. And so that's where I think no matter what tonight, you have got to get him in, because here's the other part of it, guys. They're leaving tonight. Okay, everyone came packed, ready to go. All right? Ready to go on a business trip, ready to go punch their ticket to the Fall Classic, not only on Tuesday, but be ready to bring this thing back home. If you get Emmanuel Clase a sharp outing tonight and he saves that game, it works two ways for you. He feels like he's back.
Yep.
He's going to sit on that plane with friends and family and the teammates tonight. He's going to marinate in it. And I tell you from experience, when you face adversity and that other shoe drops and you finally get it across the line, there is no better feeling. And now you have the swag back again, where you can go into Yankee Stadium and then you almost invite it on. Now I don't need him coming out like 𝗟𝗩𝗡 𝗟𝗡𝗩 did to the crowd, at Progressive Field, but it's that internal confidence that he'll have. And I would rather, as Steve said, and I said it this morning too, he's your best weapon. Okay, he's been that the whole year. And in baseball, we go 3 strikes and you're out. Well, he's down 0-2. But he's still got the big swing left, and I would trust him to go out there and leave it all on the line. He's going to pitch angry. He's going to have some venom, like Steve talked about. You'll see 101, 102. Yep. It'll be in there because it's not only the season on the line, but it's his reputation now, okay? And that means a lot to him.
As one of the best in baseball.
No doubt.
And Steve had an interesting point with getting to the point where we get to Clase is, flip-flopping Gaddis, Cade Smith. He's been Superman. They got to him last time. Jensen, if you had to pick someone in the bullpen to pull a Jensen Lewis, strike out the side against the New York Yankees, who would you pick?
Man.
I think I know his answer. Can I write his answer down?
Please do. I'll look at it.
Okay. All right. This is like kind of the magic trick, right? Where
I agree.
A little telepathy going here. All right, Gaddis is the first guy that came to mind, just because you kind of parlay off.
You've seen
of
his
it.
changeup.
I just love where he's at. I love how the stuff plays. But for some reason, I think it's Clase tonight. I think it's Clase.
Could you imagine, and hopefully we're up 8-0 when this happens, but Emmanuel Clase goes out there and strikes out the side to win the game.
And I don't care which 3 it is. I mean, of course, we'd all love it to be Soto, Judge, and Stanton. I mean,
I know. I can't handle that.
You want to talk about an exclamation point. Think about that. Think about if it's a 1-run lead in the 9th and it's 2-3-4 due up and old boy is coming down the stairs. There is no better rebuttal than to the last 48 hours than going out there and doing it and getting that done, especially through the heart of the order, because now they got to think about that going back. Like, oh, well, he's back, So a lot still. You got to get there. We got to get to that situation. So Tanner Bybee, got to be It's got to be him tonight. He has to be him, as the kids would say.
Yes. Wow. Jensen, look at us.
Look at that. All right.
Producer Ryan liked that one.
That got a giggle out of Ryan in the producer chair. Straight ahead, Dave is heading to Progressive Field.
Yes.
Dave, we need a prediction out of you before we get you out of here for our guards.
I hate to say it. I think there's going to be a ton of runs again. The heartbeat's going to be up like it has been all series. Give me Cleveland. I think we win this one 7-5.
7-5, high-scoring affair for our guards, but the offense gets it done. Who's your MVP? Who walks out of today's game as your MVP? That's a tough one.
Give me Josh Naylor.
All right.
Let's go crazy.
I love it. Hey,
Beautiful.
I mean, he heated up. Huge thanks to Dave for joining us on the Big Play pregame show. More from me and Jensen right after this. Welcome on back here into the Big Play pregame show, getting you guys ready to roll and amped up for this pivotal Game 5 of the American League Championship Series between our Cleveland Guardians and the New York Yankees. We appreciate former Mets GM, MLB Network Radio, Steve Phillips, joining us on the Big Play pregame show. All of our guests on Big Play pregame are brought to you guys by our friends over at Northeast Factory Direct. Guys, they have the best quality products at an unbelievable price, and they truly have your entire home covered with kitchen cabinets, bedroom sets, dining room tables, hot tubs, sofas, and so much more. You can shop online anytime by going to northeastfactorydirect.com, but you got to check them out in person. Go to Cleveland, Euclid, Macedonia, North Canton. If you're looking for an even better deal, you could check out their outlet centers in Euclid or Canton. It's a truly unique furniture buying experience. Make sure to ask about that extra special Big Play bonus, and they'll give you guys a nice little hookup there. Jensen, Steve Phillips was a lot of fun, and obviously his New York Mets pushed the envelope in their do-or-die game and pound the Dodgers to force Game 6 over there in the NLCS.
Yep, 12-6. One of the crazy parts of that game, if you didn't get to see it yesterday, besides all of the scoring, the Mets had 44 plate appearances as an offense, did not strike out one time, and that is the third time that's ever happened in the expansion era. You go all the way back to 1961. And this series, you and I have kind of talked about it at length, that it hasn't really been close, and the numbers bear it out. So of this series to its point, only 2 playoff series ever have had the first 5 games decided by 4 or more runs. You have to go back to the 65 World Series between the Dodgers and the Minnesota Twins. So just crazy offensive outbursts. And, we talk about pitching and needing length here. Dear God, the Mets and the Dodgers pitchers are like, what else do we have to throw? Like, we can't get anybody out here. But what I think will be unique about the NLCS tomorrow night, Game 6, the Dodgers will have a bullpen game. It'll be Sean Manaea for the Mets, who has been one of their best starters, if not their best starter. Mets are kind of in a unique spot here because they've got momentum. They've forced it back, and they have the pitching advantage with the off day today. So it'll be really fascinating to see how many A-plus resources Doc Roberts for L.A. uses if they're kind of tied or behind, knowing that potentially you could have to play a Game 7 on Monday and still have those guys have to go back-to-back.
Yeah, I mean, when we looked at this, I really thought the Dodgers were going to have the Mets on the ropes. Yeah. I kind of thought this series was nearing an end, but no, New York forces their way back into this thing. And that's interesting that they're going to throw a bullpen game with Manaea. We've compared so much the Mets to our Guardians just because they've gotten hot so much throughout this season at large. They started off kind of bad, and then they spiked, and then they cooled back off, and then now they are very hot throughout October. I really hope the Guardians mimic what the Mets were able to do in their pivotal Game 5, and we do the same thing tonight because we have Tanner Bybee, who's our best starter, rolling for the Guards tonight. Just play guards well, man. Similar to what the Mets have been able to do. Obviously, they've got some bigger-time stars and power out that way, but I really think Cleveland can replicate what New York is doing in a much more serious underdog role, obviously with the Mets playing the underdog role in that series.
Would love nothing.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, would love nothing more. So yesterday, Pete Alonso, 3-run home run in the bottom of the first inning to get the Mets out in front. Huge start for them because their backs were against the wall. I think the same could be said for, and I don't care if it's Hosey or Josh Naylor. I mean, you get one of those big bullets tonight early and give Tanner Bybee a lead. I think that is huge, not only for the offense, but there's going to be some tension. You got to kind of have that nice, big, deep breath at some point, and you want to get it out of the way sooner than later. And so something like that, maybe a Kwani leadoff double, David Fry ends up, getting him over, maybe a base hit, and then a Hosey home run. Boy, that would be great. So I'm with Steve, where when you watch Carlos Rodon, tendency to give up more homers on the road, has not done well against right-handed hitting. We'll have a boatload of them in the lineup to start tonight. Anxious to see how he kind of handles the pressure, because it's still pressure on him. And we said about 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘, everyone was like, oh, hey, don't worry, you got 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 in Game 5. Still pressure on that guy to be able to go out and do it, man. It's just not that easy to say just because we've got the series lead and one more win gets us across the finish line, not a foregone conclusion. I think Guardians will give Rodon all he can handle.
And that was very good perspective from Steve because we keep talking about that dam almost, Jensen, where it's building and it's just getting ready to burst at the seams. And he stole a little bit of our thunder, and we keep talking about how important it is to get runs across early for the guards. He said the same exact thing. He was like, hey, if you could score runs early, it's always great, but especially against a guy like Rodon that could get frazzled after a home run. I think people would be feeling a lot better if Cleveland throws the first haymaker in this one. So far throughout this series, it's felt like it's been New York throwing the first blow. It would be really nice to see the guards score first here.
Yankees have scored first in every game, and that's also, for them looking for the early offense, and they've been able to get that across the line in spades. But also now with Cleveland feeling like the backs are against the wall, not to say they'll take some chances tonight for early big swings, but I think you have to at this point, knowing that you force Aaron Boone into a situation, as we talked about earlier. How long do I stick with Rodon? Like, I seriously feel that's a huge narrative, and I'm glad Steve brought it up for everyone to consider that when he gets frazzled, like the command eludes him. We talked about it with Luis Gil, the huge layoff for him in between 19 days in between his regular season finale and where he pitched last night. That first inning went exactly how we talked about. Like, it was not there for Gavin for the first couple hitters, but he reeled it back in. It was not there for Luis Gil for the first 3 to 4.
He was very erratic.
And he was able to reel it back in. There could have been a lot more damage from Cleveland in that first inning last night, but something to kind of watch for, even with the performance Rodon had in Game 1. Anxious to kind of see where the nerves are, because he's going to want to be the guy. Everyone talking about Garrett Cole. He wants to be the guy to get it across the finish line.
I'm interested to see, especially knowing now what we know after hearing from you, after hearing from Steve about Rodon. And even though he looked like a world beater in that Game 1, we know that maybe that's not exactly the true story of who he is, especially if Cleveland can hit him up early. I love tonight's lineup by Stephen Vogt, by the way. And for the people out there that haven't seen it yet, as we are just under 1 hour away from first pitch at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, it's Quan leading off in left. Designated hitting is David Fry. I love Fry getting that start again. At third is Jose Ramirez. Lane Thomas in center. Josh Naylor at first. Batting sixth in right field, Big Christmas. I love David Fry and Big Christmas together. Behind the dish is Bo Naylor. We talked about that a lot. At second is Jimenez, and at short in his typical 9 spot is Brian Rocchio. Jensen, what were your thoughts to see Fry and Jhonkensy Noel both in the lineup together? Not to mention, Stephen Vogt is able to keep that Manzardo card in his back pocket because he's been hitting the baseball very well.
So a little bit different now when you navigate through, and particularly the big relievers that Aaron Boone has relied upon. We mentioned Clay Holmes, and boy, anxious to see if he is going to have anything outside of an inning. Maybe cleans up an inning to try and get a final out, but he has been used a ton. Weaver's going to be fresh. If they have a lead late, do they use him in the 8th to clean up a possible rally and then have him try and get it across in the 9th? Other guys to watch for, Tim Meza, Tim Hill. You've seen kind of the weird Tim Hill mechanics. Okay, I think he holds that card, Aaron Boone does, until Manzardo possibly is brought in. And it's an uncomfortable at bat. It's a release point of speed you're not used to all the time. And that is going to be something that I think Aaron Boone will look for to try and upend wherever Rodon finishes. It's probably a righty because he's not going to probably go back-to-back lefties unless it's a Quan and you're trying to force, Hosey to the right side, which could be a possibility. Either way, it's good that you've got the initial offense there, but now he's kind of pot committed, Stephen Vogt is. Like, you're going to have to leave these guys even when some of the righties come in. Like, I don't think in the back of his mind he's like, oh, yeah, let me get Will Brennan for Jhonkensy Noel. He might,
yeah,
but I think he's got to give a few at-bats before he even entertains that decision.
Especially because we joked about it a lot in the first hour, but Big Christmas, that and the cameraman, whatever, he sent that baseball for a ride. I mean, that was a very good rip, and you got to give him, allot him the opportunity to do a couple more of those today.
I agree.
I mean, could you imagine, we talk about, so much getting length out of starters in the bottom end of this the bottom end of this lineup here today. I mean, if Jhonkensy Noel could be the guy that takes Rodon deep and gets him frazzled for some of the later guys, Bo Naylor, Rocchio, who are finally starting to figure some things out and put bat to ball. That would be very exciting.
It certainly would. And I also look at where the right on rights that we've already seen from the last couple of games is Voter's going to stick with it. He's going to give guys opportunities to perform. I think that has to happen with Friday night, because once Fry's done, that's it. And you don't have that off-the-bench presence from him now. So something that Aaron Boone will file away and say, all right, don't have to worry about that guy coming off the bench. Your right-handed bat is Hedges.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think they've probably already put it in the scouting report of don't let Fry beat you in a scenario, because if we can match up, we'll force Vogt to have to go to Manzardo maybe earlier than he wants. I would just implore Stephen Vogt, give the guys that have done the damage late, give them at least an opportunity if that situation presents itself.
And Jensen, that'll be different, because we've talked about it at length on this program. Stephen Vogt has been very liberal with the pinch hitter throughout this entire postseason, and really it's kind of another testament to the guards ball moniker. I mean, it's what got him through this entire 162. It's what got him to this point tonight at Game 5 in the American League Championship Series, is using the entire bench. And I mean, that was a message that he communicated to the guys very early in spring training, is we're going to use all of you. Today, though, it might have to be a bit of a different approach where, okay, maybe we could use most of you.
Yeah.
But we got to be reserved, because, late in the game, I want to make sure we have David Fry. I want to make sure we have Jhonkensy Noel if we need a home run in a big moment.
Anxious to see where Austin Hedges finds himself into this game, and probably going to be after a Bo Naylor at bat. Like they want to have to take a full turn through the lineup. So you may see perhaps a seventh inning scenario. If Bo was the last out, or maybe one of the last two outs, you might see that defensive replacement if it's close, and just the opportunity, because you cannot allow an extra 90 feet, a wild pitch, something of that nature. That's also another subplot here. And even with what Steve talked about, if Gaddis does go before Smith, and Cade has that ability to put the ball, in the dirt. If that is going to happen, you want your best stopper back there. So something to follow along here with where they are in the order.
I wanted to ask you about that as well, because interesting perspective from Steve. I mean, he put it out there that, hey, we're going to stick with Class A, and that seems to be the sentiment here, even from Voter, who said, he'd go back to Emmanuel Class A tonight if the game's close, and if that's a scenario that presents itself. It was interesting to me that he suggested, saving Cade Smith for a little bit later in the game. Do you think that's something that realistically actually happens, or is it all kind of scenario-based?
It probably is scenario-based or matchup-based, but it's not really far-fetched, and thinking how many times already that Judge, Stanton have seen Smith. How many times now, if you quote-unquote change it up, with Gaddis being the guy who's going to get those big three all in a row, and then maybe it's Cade Smith coming in and cleaning up an inning, and then being able to go back out there. I just feel that you're having a handful of these guys already for Cleveland. It's going to be 3 days in a row. It's going to be 4 of the last 5. That is a pretty large physical toll on guys, and expecting them to be nearly perfect, and that's probably what they're going to have to be. That's why the offense tonight now takes on a bit more responsibility. The more you can use, or the more you can add on, and we hope there's a scenario where that's possible, then you can probably ask like a Pedro Avila, like, hey, go give me 2 plus, try and sneak maybe an out or two of a third inning through there. That might be a scenario, and he may be that first guy up, depending on what the situation is with Tanner Bybee.
Man, how about Pedro Avila? And he has just embraced that role.
Unreal,
we were joking the other night, they showed on the national TV broadcast.
He
busted out the innings eater shirt, which is a meme, if you guys aren't familiar, that has been passed around throughout this season, because he's been Mr. Consistent. He's been the guy that Stephen Vogt can lean on when things get rocky to get in there and do just that and eat innings and give the Guardians length when the starter doesn't. Jensen, just how hard is that for a guy like Pedro? Because you talked about in the first hour, right now everybody's tired. There's no doubt in my mind that Pedro's tired, because he had to give this ball club so much throughout 162. How hard is it for a guy like that to come in? Or is it different because he's been so locked in that, like, this is just him now. This is just Pedro Avila. I'm coming in to eat innings, and I'm going to wear my shirt in the pregame.
I love it, and good for him to really embrace the role, because there are some egos from guys in the past where that's not a title as kind of like the last guy in the bullpen that you ever wanted to have, albeit Stephen Vogt uses everyone in his bullpen, so everyone feels like they're a piece of the puzzle. And for him, he's been as critical a piece. We've even called him the bullpen MVP because of what he did in Game 2, because of what he did in Game 3. And now I'd be hard-pressed to not see him in this game at some point, and knowing the length that you've used your big guns in there. So Tanner and Ávila, is there an opportunity to have maybe some sort of piggyback there? Let's say Tanner gets you through 4, and you need, of all people, Ávila to come in and clean up an inning, get through the 5th, maybe start the 6th, and then match it up from there.
I'd feel really good about that scenario right there.
Who would have thought, beginning of the year, you're talking about this guy come in and get the biggest outs of the year to try and save the season? Like, that is so far-fetched, and it is a beautiful thing about the marathon of the season. You never know when you're going to be the impact guy, so keep working. He did, and he's earned himself the opportunities that he'll likely see, if not tonight, and we hope that it moves on, but he'll definitely see him on Game 6.
Yeah, Jensen, and for those that don't know, the story is obviously impeccable, for Pedro Ávila, that earlier this season he wasn't on the Cleveland Guardians ball club at all. He was with the San Diego Padres, and ultimately gets his, release, opts for his release there, and Cleveland picks him up, and, whenever that happens, especially for the back end of the bullpen guy, you never really know what you're going to get, but for Pedro Ávila, he's come in and he's been Mr. Reliable, which is the tag that you want, I can imagine, in that bullpen.
And not only the way he's pitched down the stretch. Remember some of the critical outings in August and September, and, wasn't the first option, maybe not even the second or third that people were thinking of, but the way he was throwing and the effectiveness of which he was able to deliver, it just increased the reliability factor. And I think you saw that bear out as the guy who came in, and helped try and stem the tide there. 2 2/3 of scoreless baseball in Game 2. That if that doesn't happen, Cleveland has no chance to even try and make a comeback, let alone keep that game close. And then Game 3, man, to go through Judge and Stanton the way that he did, and I hate to say it with relative ease because it looked that way, but the execution, the heart rate to stay under control and to do what he did, just a masterful job from him all October.
It's been efficient. I think that's my word to summarize Pedro Avila's time here in Cleveland thus far. Is it's been very efficient. And if Stephen Vogt is listening to our pregame show, I kind of hope that he's not. And they elect him do that and go from Bybee exactly to Pedro, and then have a situation where, okay, you could go Gaddis, you could go Smith. I think the fans out here would opt for that. I mean, that's not a bad predicament to be in. Speaking of the length of Tanner Bybee, our friend Mike from across the pond. I think we can now rely on Mike as an analyst on the Big Play pregame show. Our analyst from across the pond, Mike Brown's UK, tweets into the show. And Jensen, he wants us to stop joking about the lack of sleep. He's been going to bed at 6 in the morning after these last couple of games. That is impeccable dedication from our friends across the pond that listen to us on the Big Play pregame show. He said hopefully after tonight's game, his feelings are a little bit different going to bed there early morning UK time as we see some length from Tanner Bybee and the offense gets going as well.
Okay.
Put this thing away early so Mike could get some rest for Game 6. But that truly does feel like the key to victory tonight is getting length out of Tanner Bybee. Because if he can go 5 innings strong even, I know 6 seems to be the magic number, but if you could get 5 really good Tanner Bybee innings, and we know he's capable of doing it, I think the guards have a shot in this game, a true shot, where nothing heroic needs to happen late like we've seen these last couple. Tanner's got to give this club some way.
You look at what Soto, Judge, and Stan have done this series. 7 homers, 14 RBI, almost an 1,100 OPS. All the other New York hitters, 1 homer and 6 runs batted in. It's pretty clear as day. Those are the 3 that can't beat you. And how do you navigate that? If someone says, okay, well, you got to pitch to somebody there. Technically, you're right. But it's also about limiting the opportunities for damage. And I think Tanner can do that as we've sort of laid out, that staying ahead in the count. We've already seen a blueprint. You mentioned Hunter Gaddis, the electric factory last night. You've seen Pedro Ávila not going to light up the radar gun, but knows how to speed up and slow down. So the blueprints are there. It's just simply execution at this point. Easier said than done. Totally agree with that. But I think there is plenty in the tank here for Tanner Bybee, even after just 39 pitches. Yes, it is 3 days rest. Yes, it is coming back quickly. But that's kind of a a bullpen that any starter would throw in between starts. So, you need him to have the good fastball command, throw it out again. A 563 average so far against his heater in this postseason. So if that pitch is not working, then it's a long night for Cleveland, or a short night, however you want to look at it. So he has got to be great from pitch number 1 with the fastball. That helps set up everything else in advantage counts.
It'll be a short night for our buddy Mike out there in the United
Mike will be in bed early, that's for sure.
And we appreciate him tuning in to us every show here on the Big Play pregame show, and appreciate all the people that are here hanging out with us at the Lakewood Truck Park, tuning in live on Big Play, on YouTube, on Twitter. The support has been awesome for this show. Jensen, if you're Tanner Bybee going out there for this game today, obviously he was ticked. Dave kind of joked, deservedly so, when he was pulled out of that game against the Yankees. That wasn't that long ago. That was just the other day.
Right.
How do you forget about that? Or do you not forget about it and kind of use it as motivation as a pitcher, because this was a club that you just faced, and you've got to be now you're tasked with saving Cleveland's season?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the simplicity part of this, and mentally understanding I cannot get 3 outs all at once. I have to be so good with my pitch-to-pitch routine. I cannot let what we've seen with some of the umpires here and the fringe calls that somehow, some way do not go Cleveland's way. That has to be the furthest thing from your mind. If you get balled on a call that you think's a strike, just keep pepper in the zone. You cannot do and let anything about the guy behind the dish affect your ability to continue with your scouting, with your process, and more importantly, your emotions. You have got to be under control, and you cannot try and do this all yourself. If he can stay efficient, like get some early ground ball outs, maybe some quick outs within the first 3 pitches, force some weak contact. You don't need 10 punch outs tonight. You need to have like 60 pitches through 5. That right there tells me that would be a phenomenal stat line. 1 run, 0 runs allowed, competitive though through 5, and efficient to the point where Stephen Vogt has the opportunity to send him back out in the 6th inning. Not like, all right, you're done, man. 85, 90 pitches, we can't do it. That, I think, is where Tanner Bybee's goal is tonight.
Yeah, we're just growing closer, and Jensen, I'm getting nervous. We're about 30 minutes out here from this Game 5, and I do think that's the recipe, is keeping that pitch count low. Really, and you call it on all of these games, man, where it's the first inning.
Yeah.
You got to get out of that first inning for Tanner Bybee quickly, and it's focusing hitter by hitter. We saw that issue creep in last night with Gavin Williams, where he threw damn near what felt like 30 pitches throughout the first inning, and it's like, well, this is not good. You know for a fact he's not going to give you 5 or 6 innings just based off of the first inning. So it's pivotal for the guards to start this Game 1 hot, because and that goes for both the pitching and the offense.
Yeah, and I think Tanner does have an opportunity if he gets on a roll, and I mentioned the slider. I think that's the focal point for an off-speed pitch, and definitely against the right-handed hitters. How much can he get, Judge and Stanton to walk off the plate? Because you're going strength on strength there. It's been one of his best out pitches, but the Yankees as a whole just don't chase. And so you've got to force them to be behind the count as early and as often as possible to make them expand the strike zone. It can happen, and you can get into a groove. Like, it has happened before. But I think that's also in tandem with, if the offense can find a way. It doesn't necessarily have to be the first inning. But, man, that second inning, maybe that third inning, like, create some chaos. Create some real doubt for Carlos Rodon. Put him in the stretch. Keep him from himself wanting to just go slider, elevate with the fastball. If that is possible and that becomes reality, we go back to our tried and true. I've separated it into 2 games, right? It's the first 3 innings for me tonight. If the first 3 innings are advantage Tanner Bybee, Cleveland's winning this game, because that means that he's got his command, he's got his wits about him, and he's got a good slider tonight. If he has all 3 of those things working, a real opportunity for him to be the dominant guy we've seen him in the past.
Jensen, you segmenting these games thus far, you've been on it. I mean, they have played out exactly how we've discussed on this pregame show. So for the guards tonight, you got to hope Tanner Bybee is really on it. You got to hope he's able to flush what happened in that first game out against the New York Yankees and come back a renewed Tanner Bybee, the one that we know that's gotten us this far, the true ace of this organization moving forward. Straight ahead, Jets and I lock in our same game parlay. Don't go anywhere. More of the Big Play pregame right after this. Welcome on back on in to the Big Play pregame show. I'm Nick Padone. He's Jensen Lewis. We're broadcasting live from the Lakewood Truck Park, where we've been every single Cleveland Guardians playoff game throughout the ALDS against Detroit, Jensen, now throughout this American League Championship Series against the New York Yankees. We'll be here if there is a Game 6 and a Game 7 for our Cleveland Guardians, broadcasting for the show. It's time to lock in our same-game parlay. We're presented to you guys as well today by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. If you're hanging out here with us at the truck park, hit up the bar, get a Lipton Hard Iced Tea. If you're watching at home, you've got a half hour till this game starts. Hit up that corner store and get some Lipton Hard Iced Teas in you. Liquid courage, as Big Play Dave said,
yes.
before he fist bumped us and went on his way out to the stadium. So whatever you got to do, get some Lipton Hard Iced Tea. All right, you look at this game. Our Gardos are underdogs at home, Jensen, plus 115 right now on the money line. Vegas's faith wavering a little bit in our Guards.
Yeah, not surprised. And I think the strongest play for me would be the over. I still think there's going to be runs aplenty tonight. I don't know if it's going to be 14 like it was last night, but yeah, 7.5 right now, the total. I think that's certainly in play. I told you Bobby strikeouts, so at 3.5 probably right now. Something or other. I would think it'd have to be a little bit lower just because they may err on the side of, wanting to have the opportunity to.
So they did the thing, Jensen, because of exactly that, the nuance of in the event that he gets pulled quickly. They did the thing where his total is set right now, Tanner Bybee strikeouts. Over under is 4.5, but the over is juiced plus money to 110.
Okay, I would say 4. 4 more is probably a good way to go, as the total at 7 or 7.5.
For the game, the total is actually up to 8.
It's up to 8. Okay,
it's up to 8 even for this one. So people are feeling you on the over.
So maybe
sure.
buy it down to 7 for the chance for the push. And I would say to guard against, because if we want to win it here.
And we've seen these games be very high scoring
and close too. So I would say if you can get guards plus 1.5.
I think that's safe. I mean, these games have been heart attack inducing. I had to stop at the Cleveland Clinic and get my physical on my way here today just to make sure that I was going to be good to get through a 2-hour pregame show and then the game.
I would say that's the 3-legger that I would do. And if you wanted to go and get really adventurous, probably add in a David Fry, 2 or more total bases.
I like that a lot. All right, so we're building this thing out here. We said we're going to bet it down a little bit. Guardians plus, we like 1.5.
Take plus 1.5.
They took that off. Our choice is plus 1, plus 2, or plus 2.5.
2 plus 2, yeah,
all right,
sure.
Plus 2. Sure, we'll play your game here, Sportsbook, and then we'll go total bases. And we like David Fry at 2 bases.
Two bases for Fry. He's gonna get at least a couple ABs.
Would you believe Fry 2 bases alone?
Juice
plus 185.
Man, because they think he's going to get pinch hit for.
Gotta like the value on that. All right, so we went a little conservative with some of our picks here. We went over 7.
Okay.
So we bet that down 1. We went David Fry 2+ total bases. We went Guardians plus 2. Preserve ourselves a little bit.
Okay.
We got Tanner Bybee 4+ strikeouts. Jensen Lewis, that is plus 625.
There we go.
Right now.
That's kind of been our sweet spot for the ones that really come through. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, $20 would pay $145 and would
pay a tab.
Cover some tabs here at the Lakewood Truck Park.
Oh, yeah.
All right, you mentioned David Fry. We've been doing a lot of X Factors on this program. Who on the Cleveland offense? X factor to watch out for.
Yeah, Fry's one. Lane Thomas for sure. We know his own left-handed pitching, and I think that to me is something if you're going to try and upset Rodon and a guy that can lift the ball. Talking about how he gives up homers and especially on the road has been more prone to do that. Those would be the 2 right-handed bats immediately that jump out. So Fry and Lane Thomas. We've gone to the well how many times with Rocchio, and he's delivered. I think you stay with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Stay with Roque at the bottom. So if you want to do just your own little hitter parlay, you could probably do Fry, Thomas, and Brian Rocchio to get a hit, and that'll probably be pretty good as well.
So, Jensen, my girlfriend last night did an emotional hedge parlay. $10.
Emotional hedge. I love that.
$10 to pay $1,200, and it was 1 leg away. Aaron Judge didn't hit a home run. She had Giancarlo Stanton home run, and she had Juan Soto home run. She needed Aaron. She was an Aaron Judge home run away from $1,200.
Holy.
Yeah. All right, so I'll ask you this on the flip side of the coin for the New York Yankees. It seems like a no-brainer. It seems like that parlay right there is what the guards need to avoid cashing. You know, stay away from Judge, Soto, and Stanton. But last night we found out with Clase, it was a little bit more than those guys that caused Cleveland havoc. Who do Guards fans need to be on the lookout for from New York's offense?
I think it's Austin Wells, kind of under the radar at the bottom of the lineup. And the way that the catchers have struggled a bit, but for him, remember the home run and look good with it. And I think that's a guy, if you're looking for under the radar, someone off the beaten path, bottom of that lineup, that's the guy I would have circled to just be a little bit mindful for.
All right, and then a game we've played typically with our guests, I'll do it with you. Cleveland wins this game tonight if blank.
Cleveland wins because Tanner Bybee goes deep, and it has to be 5+, if not 6. And I'm not asking for 2 or fewer, but when he gets on a roll with the slider, that's usually been a time where he racks up 6-7 strikeouts. If that's the masterclass he can put together tonight, it will go a long way. And I do believe there will be some runs, but I'll echo kind of Steve Phillips' sentiment there. Bybee getting a clean first inning and really being able to harness the emotions is as important as the early lead. All that notwithstanding, you have to get length from Tanner Bybee at least half this game. That's my fill in the blank if the Guardians win tonight.
All righty, and then I hate to do this, but we've got to ask it. New York Yankees win this game if blank.
Stanton and Judge. Stanton homers again. Soto does whatever he needs to get on base in front of both those guys, but Stanton has just been a one-man wrecking crew. All 7 of his hits career against Cleveland in the postseason have all been for home runs. So hasn't struck out a bunch. Finally did it last night for the first time in like 26 consecutive plate appearances in the postseason. And to me, that's the one guy that has just been so daunting, especially with men on base. Yes, Judge, the homer off Clase, but it's back-to-back nights where Stanton has had the biggest swing of the night. So the Yankees win if Stanton goes deep again.
He's a guy that's turned into in this series, Mr. October. How do you neutralize a guy like that in Stanton when he's so hot right now? He's the guy to avoid. Everybody in the stands knows it. When you're out there on the mound, how do you harness that and make sure that he's not the guy that ends Cleveland's season tonight?
And it's hard because, you've to their credit, the Guardians have been able to employ a strategy that is good on paper. And then that's the beauty of playing the game is you've got to still be able to execute the pitches. You think about the Cade Smith at bat, right? Gets ahead, all right? Continuing to climb the ladder.
Yep.
And it's the one pitch you miss with. And that's what keeps us up as relievers at night is like, man, you executed exactly where you wanted to get to strike 1, to get to strike 2. And then the one pitch you leave is the one that he can get. So I think that's something you go back and look at the tape. We were convicted in the pitch. We just didn't execute. Was it the right one? Probably. If we executed it correctly, more often than not, that's an out or that's a pop out or that's advantage Cleveland in that scenario. So I think stick with the process, stick with your scouting. It's been good thus far. Now execute in the biggest moments tonight.
And to that point, Stephen Vogt echoed that sentiment post-game when speaking about Emmanuel Clase and if Vogt would trust him in Game 5 tonight. He said, of course, because he's thrown 2 bad pitches. And obviously those 2 pitches in that game last night, very costly. But, Jensen, that was exactly what you were talking about. The intention was there. It's just the execution was off for Emmanuel Clase.
I hope he's in there. I really do. And I think if you're a Cleveland fan, it's not about not trusting him tonight. It's like you need to get the trust back. If they're going to win this series, and we now know that it will take 7 games if they're going to come all the way back, Emmanuel Clase has to be the guy that he was in the regular season. There's no getting around that. So you want him back in there to get it right because you don't want him have to get it right in Game 6. And that's a hard thing to do if there's no opportunity to get him in. I think regardless of score he pitches tonight, if they're up a boatload of runs or not, I think he's in there no matter what tonight.
What's a win tonight as we get ready to wrap the show, final prediction time? What's a win tonight mean for the Cleveland Guardians? Because we hit on it a little bit before we brought Steve Phillips in, where we were talking about how, hey, the Yankees don't want to go back to New York knowing that they have to play another game on Monday. They want to try to end it here tonight. A win tonight really feels like Cleveland has an opportunity to steal some of that momentum back when it looked like they had all the momentum after the heroics from 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 Noel and David Fry just a few nights ago.
Yeah, the easy answer, it prolongs your season. You get to go play again on Monday. I think, but more so, it proves that even when it looked so dire, and it did on Wednesday after Stanton hit the home run. It did. You've proven to yourself in back-to-back nights that even when it looks bad or it looks close to being the worst, you've found a way to rally, and they have. And, I mean, that is as crucial an asset to be able to have in your back pocket because, as I told you yesterday and I repeated tonight, if that game ends up 6-2 last night, there's no fight and there's nothing, like you've laid it down, that other dugout knows that.
Yeah.
Like they know the Yankees that you got to get all 27 and it's going to be a fight for all 27. So I feel even better that they came within yet one more swing of having as euphoric a Game 3 ending and almost had it in back-to-back nights.
That's what's made this entire Cleveland Guardians season so fun,
Yep.
is you can never count this team out. Even when their backs are against the wall, even when they're on the ropes, they continue to find ways to punch themselves out off the ropes. We saw it in the Detroit Tigers series where it looked like things were getting late early, as we've said on this show a couple of times. But as Yogi Berra used to say, it is not all the way over until it's all the way over. And the Cleveland Guardians do still have a game here to be played in just about 15 minutes. The Cleveland Guardians do and will have an opportunity if they win this one to go to the Big Apple and make Jensen Lewis's prediction of Cleveland Guardians in 7 games come to fruition. It's all right there. Execution, execution, execution. That's the biggest thing for these guards tonight. I love the lineup that Stephen Vogt cooked up here.
Yep.
I love having both David Fry and 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 Noel in there. To me, that speaks to, hey, we're going to be urgent. We're going to do exactly what we've been begging, imploring for them to do, and that's have some offense early in this game. You said it. It doesn't have to be the first inning.
Yep.
Give us some offense in the first 3 innings and a little bit of a cushion for Tanner Bybee so he doesn't have to be lights out perfect, and he's allotted a little bit of length in this ball game.
Oh, man, would love to see like a Bo Naylor double and a 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘 Noel homer or a double. I mean, it doesn't have to be a homer. You don't have to hit the ball out of the ballpark. String some extra base hits together and really impose your will. If you can do that early, you put Rodon in his heels and you force Aaron Boone to have to make a difficult decision on whether to pull the plug or not.
And that's probably, I imagine, Jensen, we haven't talked about this a whole lot, a decision that he doesn't want to make.
No.
Just because after Cleveland is proven to be able to get after New York bullpen late in games,
Yep.
I could imagine that today they don't want to do that. They want length out of Rodon just as badly as we want length out of Tanner Bybee.
Prediction time?
Prediction time. Let's do it. Do you have one? I know. Well, should we give Chris Jimenez's prediction that he gave you earlier
Yeah,
today?
for people that didn't hear us on Emily Network Radio earlier today, he said 7-3, Guardians win and go back to the Big Apple. Bybee throws a gem. That would cash our over. That's likely cashing our Bybee strikeouts, we would anticipate. And that also gives you that opportunity to go back and shock the world. So you got to win tonight. I'm going to go a bit more down. I'm going to go say 5-4 Guardians, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
I'm going to go 3-1 Guardians. They're down 3-1 in this series. They're going to win this game 3-1. I said it the last 2. They've got to be able to score some runs.
Yep.
Let's have a comfortable 3-1 so they can turn this thing over to Clase and he can get the job done. Hey, we appreciate everybody for hanging out with us here at the Lakewood Truck Park. We appreciate all the support. If you're hanging out here, grab a Lipton Hard Iced Tea. If you're at home, head to that corner store, grab a Lipton Hard Iced Tea. We appreciate our friends over at Northeast Factory Direct, over at Universal Windows Direct. We appreciate the Lakewood Truck Park for having us out. We want to be back here on Monday broadcasting Game 6 as our guards will get ready to battle the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. For Jensen Lewis, I'm Nick Padone. This is another episode of the Big Play pregame show. We hope to talk to you again on Monday. We'll talk to you Monday on